You are listening to the Fly the W670 podcast. It's season 2. It's episode 90. Cubs free agent hitting options for 2024. Don't forget to listen, download, review, and most importantly, subscribe to our podcast. Follow us on the socials, Fly the W670 on Twitter, Instagram, and Fly the W on Facebook. Or, of course, email Crawly and I at flythew670@gmail.com. Crawly, happy Thanksgiving Eve. Have we gotten too old for Blackout Wednesday?
You're never too old for a good blackout. I mean, it'll help you the next morning. You can soak it up with whatever kind of birds you're eating. Most people eat turkey. I eat cardinal for the holidays. So whatever it is, man, it's always, you're never too old to have fun. That's always been my theory.
All right. So in this segment, Crawly, we are going to talk about potential Cubs free agent hitters that we're going to add to the lineup of Craig Counsell.
Yeah, in the last episode, we looked at the front end pitchers that the Cubs would be kicking the tires on. This time we're looking at the bats. And when Cody Bellinger opted out of his contract, the big question is, how do the Cubs make up for his offensive numbers? Not only that, you want to kind of go a little bit further so that the Cubs can take that next step. If like last time, we kind of take a look at the budget really quick. We know that the Cubs payroll in 2024 right now, they are currently at $168 million. Dustin, I did look into that $5 million, and yes, he is going to get that. Cody Bellinger, we talked in the last episode, so I did double check. It was part of the deal. So
wow.
So he will get that $5 million that he's walking away with. So the Cubs will own $5 million for 2024.
And then he win $1 million for comeback
player of the year. Yeah, and so that you see a lot more of that in contract. That's always kind of been in contracts, but you see more and more of it. The opt-outs, the no trade clauses, bonuses for certain performance goals. And so you know what? Hey, good on him. He's going to do it. So knowing that the Cubs do have a fair amount of money to work with, again. There's no, the $237 million is the luxury tax. That's the first tier of the luxury tax, and it's not really that big of a deal. It's when you hit that second and third tier that they really start penalizing the teams. And so, you have at least, close to $50 to $60 million to work with here, Dustin. So a lot of money. It's just a question of how do you want to spend it.
Well, they have to add a hitter, Crawly. Okay, that there is no question that they have to add a hitter. It's just what kind of hitter and where does that hitter play in the field, or is that hitter strictly a DH?
And so with that in mind, we know that the outfielder, catcher, and middle infielder set. So we're going to focus on the corner infielders and the DH. So at first base, going through the list of Cubs first basemen since Anthony Rizzo left.
Do we have to? Do we have to?
Is like looking at a list of Bears quarterbacks in the last 30 years.
There you go. Well played.
I threw that in there. Frank Schwindel, PJ Higgins, Alfonso Rivas, Patrick Wisdom, David Bodie, Jared Young, Trey Mancini, Eric Hosmer, Matt Mervis are some of the names that have played since 2021, Dustin. That's only like 2.5 seasons ago.
Yeah.
The season ended with Cody Bellinger and Jeimer Candelario taking turns playing first, but both are now free agents, so the Cubs have to decide what they want to do. The list isn't the greatest, but we'll look who's out there. Obviously, the obvious solution would be to bring back Cody Bellinger with the Cubs. That's what the fans, I think, would want. They took a chance on Bellinger, signing him to a 1-year, $17.5 pillow contract, and boy, did he deliver. 26 homers, he stole 20 bases, had an .881 OPS, and produced a career-best 15.7 strikeout percentage on his way to winning the Comeback Player of the Year award that we mentioned earlier.
Another $1 million, by the way, right? Yeah.
Boom. Jim Bowden, we talked about his Athletic article making some of these predictions. Great. And subscribe to Athletic. Great information in there. But he predicts 6 years, $144 million a year for Bellinger's service. He has the Cubs, Yankees, Giants, Mariners, Blue Jays, and Guardians all in on his services. So 6 years, Dustin, 144. What are we looking at there? A little bit over $20 million a year, right?
Yep.
There are some red flags, though. The big question is what he did last season sustainable, right? In 2017, he was the Rookie of the Year. 2018, he was the NLCS MVP. In 2019, he won the NL MVP, Silver Slugger, and Gold Glove. He struggled.
So he was Mickey Mantle for 3 years.
Right. Now, he struggled in 2023. That was that weird COVID 60-game season. So hard to kind of glean a lot of numbers out of there. And when celebrating a home run, apparently someone high-fived him too hard and he hurt his shoulder. And he struggled. One of the worst players in baseball in 2021 and 2022, so much so that the Dodgers non-tendered him in 2023. And that's when the Cubs kind of came in. Now, Dustin, as great as Bellinger was in 2023, he ranked in the bottom third among regularly used hitters in exit velocity, barrel percentage, and hard hit percentage. In a piece in the New York Post, Joel Sherman interviewed David Ross and Andy Green, so former coach, former bench coach, and Ross said, quote, "Cody, for me, metrically, is not going to jump off the page. He doesn't hit the ball the hardest of anybody or have this super disciplined approach. But his bat-to-ball skills are one of those things I haven't seen in a long time for a player that produced the way he did this year with power, gap-to-gap ability, stolen bases. Putting the ball in play was his skill set that really stood out to me." He also added, "And the ability to play first base is real. He gets great jumps from the outfield, but he played a great first base, obviously. I don't know if I've ever seen anyone with that kind of skill set, center and first base, but I think it's real." He gained confidence in his strength component as the season went on. The defense is what really stood out to me. Thoughts, Dustin?
Well, my first thought is I like Cody Bellinger a lot. I think that contract is okay. It doesn't. I don't think it kills anybody if that's what they're projecting. I could live with that. I'm wondering, do the Cubs see him as a first baseman or a center fielder? What does he see himself as? Does he want to play first base? Is first base too boring for him? Is he willing to bat second or third in the lineup? Because it appeared I think he started maybe even batting 6 or 7. And it took until forever for him to be batting cleanup. He never went above cleanup unless it was a really odd day. He batted fourth. He batted between 4th and 6th the majority of his at-bats last year. And there's something different batting in the top 3 than there is batting in the bottom 6. It's different. It's not the same. So, can he do that in the 2 or the 3 hole? Maybe. Does he want to be a first baseman? I don't know. I hate saying I don't know. But I don't know. Do you even remember him being asked? I mean, if he had a preference, if he cared, and I wonder if he cares about that. I wonder if first base maybe is boring. Do you make more money as a first baseman? Do you make more money as a center fielder? I know your career probably gets extended as a first baseman as opposed to center field. So I just wonder if there's a spot that he'd rather be in, or maybe, just maybe, he loves the idea of doing both, which he might be able to do only here with the Cubs.
I think that's the thing. I think he'd prefer to play outfield, but maybe he can do some first and some center field. Who knows? It is a unique set. I've never seen anyone be able to play a Gold Glove center fielder and first baseman. So as Ross said, like, that just blows your mind.
Yeah. See Patrick Wisdom.
No. I prefer not. I love Patrick. I don't want to see him in center. No, thank you. No, thank you. But it just is nervous. I mean, the Pillow contract, great. It's just a question of, you're going to give a guy a lot of money, and was it just injuries and change of scenery that changed it for Bellinger? There's no way to tell. You're taking a little bit of gamble, but anytime you give these contracts out, it's a gamble, right?
Right.
So, I do get concerned about the fact that he's just not a guy that hits the ball hard, but I do like the bat on ball skills. So I wouldn't mind having him back at all.
Listen,
at that price point, at 6 years, 144, I do not have a problem with that.
Yeah, I just, for some reason, I feel like he's looking for $200 million. I think
I'm
that
thinking
144 is low.
I'm thinking that he is going to want to play center more than first, and so that's kind of my concern as well.
Right.
Now, the guy that we've talked about lately, Rhys Hoskins. Just like the Cubs rolled the dice on Bellinger, would they be willing to do the same with Rhys Hoskins? He tore his ACL in 2023 in spring training and missed the entire season. But when he was healthy, the Philly slugger provided the middle of the order power and the ability to get on base via the walk. So he's not just a guy who hits home runs and then strikes out a bunch, right? He has good on base skills. In 2022, he hit 30 home runs and slashed 246, 332, 462. That was the second time in Hoskins' career that he hit 30 home runs. In 2019, he led the NL in walks with 116. So seeing a slugger lead the league in walks is a really good thing.
Yeah, that doesn't happen very often, though.
That being said, Hoskins is a below average defender at first. In 2022, he had a negative 14.6 ranking of Fangraphs. So out of 18 qualified first basemen in MLB in 2022, his defense ranked 16th. Dustin, the contract looks like it's going to be 1 year from anywhere to 12 to 17 million. How are you about rolling the dice on Mr. Hoskins, Dustin?
Well, if you strike out, hopefully not, on Cody Bellinger, I don't mind it for a 1 year pillow, $15 million. You've got a good enough shortstop and a good enough second baseman where I don't know that you have to have the best defender over at first base. You don't have to be digging out a lot of balls that those guys throw. So I'm not against it, but then, like Reese Hopkins seems to go really good with Shohei Ohtani, right? Like that would seem to be why you would have a Reese Hoskins on your team, not because you didn't have Bellinger when you didn't have Ohtani.
Right. And so, it's an interesting one. I don't know, I know how much the Cubs are valuing defense, so I don't know how much that's going to enter into the equation, but we talked about John Maley being back with the team and somebody that tutored Hoskins when he was with Philadelphia. So just definitely one to keep your eye out. And Dustin, after Bellinger and Hoskins, the pickings get quite slim. Carlos Delgado is a switch hitter nearing the end of his career. Had a solid season, starting off with the Pirates and then getting traded to the Brewers. Carlos Santana, not Carlos Delgado. Carlos Santana. He had a solid season starting off with the Pirates and going to the Brewers. In Milwaukee, he really picked up the Brewers and helped propel them to the postseason. He was that shot in the arm because the Brewers were struggling at first base. If you saw in the non-tender deadline, they got rid of Rowdy Tellez, so they're not doing that anymore. And Santana slashed 240, 318, 429. But he had 23 home runs and 86 RBIs and plays good defense. Dustin, Santana is 38 years old and projects to sign a 1 year, $8 million contract. So definitely not as interesting as the other two, but
no. And again, you can now, if we get down to Santana, right, that means that you got Bellinger and he only wants to play center. Okay. And then you also got a pitcher, like a high-end pitcher. And then, then I can live with Santana.
So when you look at the first baseman on the market and the WAR wins above a replacement players, Reese Hoskins is 2.3 WAR and he's only 31 years old. Carlos Santana's next with 38 with 2.7 WAR. Brandon Belt is 36 with a 2.4 WAR. Obviously you remember him with the Giants. Donovan Solano, 36 with 1.8 WAR. And then you start getting lower and you're just kind of like, do you really want Dan Vogelbach back at 31, 1.5 WAR? Or G-Man Choi? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean Vogelbach. Again, like you could sell me on Vogelbach if you got Ohtani, right? I mean, there are you can get me there, but it's got to be because you did some other amazing things.
As much as I like big boys, I would say nah, I'm not in on that. I'm not.
Okay. I can't even get you there. Okay.
It's not going to do it. I'm really kind of, like I said, if they're going to do a free agent, Bellinger and Reese Hoskins are clearly, obviously Bellinger's by far one, I would say probably the second best hitter in this free agent class.
Behind Ohtani,
Hoskins,
right? Okay.
Right. Hoskins would be a good guy to kind of look at. And so other than that, I don't know how many of these kind of deals are going to, the pillow contracts and stuff like that, whether you go with Hoskins or Delgado or something, I don't know. So that's what we got for first base. Much like the Cubs have struggled to find a first baseman since Rizzo left, the Cubs haven't found anyone to fill the shoes of Chris Bryant since he left. Now, one name that is clearly at the top of the third base free agent class is Matt Chapman, one of the best defensive third basemen in the game, 3-time Gold Glove winner. If you think about an infield defense with Chapman at third, Dansby at short, Nico at second, you are talking about some amazing run prevention. Last year, he slashed 240, 330, 424. He had 39 doubles and scored 66 runs in 140 games. but his strikeout numbers are going up and his home run numbers are going down. He hit 27 home runs in 2021, which you would take, and in 2022, but he only hit 17 this year and 54 RBIs. Okay. And so, for a guy that's 30 years old, right? And the contract number they're looking at is 6 years, 127, which is similar to Bellinger's is what they have there. I don't know if third base is where I want to put my money right now.
Yeah, I would agree. Might be some cheaper options out there, but based on what we've talked about a little bit in today's podcast and what we've talked about in the past, and that is the Cubs' love affair with the glove, this guy makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I just don't like the 6 years, 127. If you listen to the last podcast and we talked to Kyle Glazer, and the Cubs' number 3 prospect is Matt Shaw, and he's a guy that could project to play third base. Now, again, it's a prospect, it's a gamble, but I don't know how much I want to give Chapman a 6-year deal. He doesn't do it to me for me that much, I guess.
But I mean, let's say you don't get Ohtani, you don't get Bellinger. Is this where you go? Do you go with Rhys Hopkins and Matt Chapman?
I don't know.
Or does that feel like a bunt single? I mean,
that feels like a bunt single, especially if you're going to be giving Chapman 6 years and he only hit 17 home runs. Now, if you're
looking for pop, right?
I'm looking for pop.
You're looking for pop in this lineup, right?
Right. Now, a good option, one that the Cubs had, we got to ask ourselves, is the third time the charm for Jeimer Candelario. He signed with the Cubs as an international free agent in 2010, Dustin. Played a few games for the Cubs in 2016 and 2017, got his ring in 2016 before being traded to Detroit. He signed with the Nationals in 2023, and then the Cubs acquired him in the trade deadline in August. He's a switch hitter, Dustin, and he slashed .251, .342, .48, .481 with 22 home runs and 70 RBIs. And those numbers would have been better if a back injury that he sustained probably mid to late August and was finally put on the IL in mid-September didn't hurt him. Those hurt his numbers. The other thing, Dustin, is that he can play both third and first for the Cubs like he did last season. Yep. He is a better defensive third baseman than a first baseman, but Bowden predicts 2 years, $15 million. And to me, that is something that interests me. It's just a small deal. And again, if he can hit 20 home runs now, if you remember when we had Bruce Levine on the podcast, This was a nugget that he put up that the agent was not necessarily happy that the Cubs really haven't contacted him since the season ended. I don't know. These guys always play games as far as head games and trying to do whatever they can. But I like Candelario. Like I said, I'm just disappointed that, I think if he would have stayed healthy, that might have meant the Cubs get in the postseason, and who knows what would have happened. But for only 2 years at $15 million, a guy that, pretty much hits 20 home runs a year, I'm curious about that one.
Yep. Yeah. That, I think there's something there. I mean, Bruce wouldn't have said it just to say it. I bet the agent is ticked off, and I think it screams loudly. But again, they don't have to rush to get Candelario, right? Let's see what else. Let's see what else happens. Let's see what other teams are saying about Candelario. So I have not heard his name mentioned anywhere at all.
Now, Dustin, I'm going to throw a name out there, and it's going to be a little bit surprising. Another guy that can play third and first, he can also DH, Justin Turner. He is 39 years old, but last season for the Red Sox, Dustin, Turner slashed .276, .345, .455, 31 doubles, 23 home runs, and 96 RBIs. Great clubhouse guys. Bowden has him at 1 year, $12 million. I remember hating seeing Turner on the other side with all that big red hair, especially in the postseason against the Cubs.
He's another one. Get me Ohtani, I can handle Justin Turner. Get me Bellinger, I can handle Justin Turner. Justin Turner is he trying to play with all the iconic teams, right? LA Dodgers, Boston Red Sox. Now he wants to dip his toe into Cubby Kingdom. I'm okay with it, but it can't be Rhys Hopkins and Justin Turner. And let's win the division. That doesn't do it for me.
There's just so many questions because there's so much talent in the farm system. Is there someone that they have? Do they really truly believe Shaw is going to be ready soon? And if that's the case, then you don't want to block him.
Right. Are you going to have a platoon of Justin Turner and Nicky Madrigal? I mean, that's your third base platoon next season.
It'd be interesting to see. These are all things to kick around. But I guess, Dustin, we have to get to the moment that everybody's been waiting for.
Now, this is very important. Before we do, this morning when I talked about this on the Mully and Haw show, I whispered because I didn't know if we were allowed to say really loud that even on the Cubs Fly the W670 podcast, that Cubs fans might be interested in Shohei Ohtani coming over to Clark and Addison.
That is a bizarre one, isn't it? He doesn't want anyone. Hey, if anyone can keep a secret, we now know that Jed Hoyer can. But the Cubs need power, right? And isn't that what the whole DH was supposed to be, is getting some big boppers and adding some offense?
You would think.
And I just see a lot of teams using the DH as a place to rest guys, get them off their feet, etc. But there are, Dustin, 2 legit DHs on the market, and one of them is probably the biggest free agent of all time. And so you brought up Bruce Levine earlier. I don't know if he spoiled the party, but let's take a look at this clip that we have of Bruce from 670 The Score.
This is not a pipe dream, okay? This is a reality. The Cubs are in on this. They're not just kicking the tires. They're in. The question is, in most cases, teams decide whether or not to offer a contract to a player. In this case, the player will decide where he wants to go.
All right.
You do not interview Shohei Ohtani. Okay. Shohei Ohtani interviews you. You're not trying to figure out if Shohei fits, if you want Shohei. You are trying to attract him. He is like a college recruit, okay, in a sport. You are trying to bring him in. You are not interviewing him to see if it fits. He's interviewing you to see if he wants to come to you. So it is very different than most situations.
Now, Dustin, this is no doubt the most unique baseball player that we have seen in our lifetimes, Dustin, and we're no longer spring chickens. A lot of times when you compare somebody to Babe Ruth, you roll your eyes. You don't when it comes to Shohei Ohtani. He's an elite slugger and a dominant pitcher. He slashed last season, Dustin, for his second MVP award, 304, 412, 654, led the American League with 44 home runs while scoring 102 runs, driving in 95 and stealing 20 bases. Dustin, can you imagine the prodigious home runs he would hit at Wrigley Field? I mean, when was the last time that we saw someone land one on a rooftop? That was Glen Allen Hill, right?
They'll be like Glen Allen Hill or Dave Kigman-esque, right?
Yes,
that'll be like.
I mean, he led the major in slugging position and OPS. As a pitcher, he went 10-5 with a 3.14 ERA and 23 starts, striking out 167 and walking 55 in 132 innings. Big question, and that is, Ohtani had surgery on his right elbow on September 19th. It's been kind of weird. No one said it's Tommy John, but it's pretty much assumed it's Tommy John, and that would be his second Tommy John surgery. A lot of players do not come back as well from a second Tommy John. Cubs pitcher Jameson Taillon is one of the few that has. But the question is, what effect will that have on the contract? Before the surgery, easily, we were starting at $500 million. Looking at Bowden's article in The Athletic, he thinks 10 years, $477 million with incentives and escalators that take the deal closer to $500 million if he pitches X amount of innings, if he wins the Cy Young Award, those type of things. So, Dustin, I mean, $500 million is a whole lot of money, but this is a player that is about unique as you can get. Do we even have to ask if we want to do this for $500 million?
Yes, you have to ask, because you could tell me that you could get, and I'm not saying I want him necessarily in our last podcast, but I could get Sonny Gray, Cody Bellinger, and Justin Turner for that $500 million, and maybe more, right? I think when you're getting into the Ohtani thing, it's also about business. I think Bruce had a figure. he said he talked to somebody out in Anaheim, and that Ohtani brought back $100 million in revenue from all different aspects. So when you're giving him 500, you're getting 100 back. So you're really giving him 400. No other player is going to come anywhere near that, right? Nobody's got a return. Again, whether they get Shohei Ohtani or not, every seat at Wrigley Field is going to be filled again next year.
I don't. You're
not going to sell anymore. You're not going to. The people that are going to gain are the people on the secondary market. I'm saying the Ricketts aren't going to make any more money on tickets because they have Ohtani or not.
I will disagree with that. Right. I will disagree with that statement, and we're going to actually talk about it a little bit in the second segment. But they're not always filled, and so a lot of times you'll see, and you see this with every team. It'll be like today's attendance is 38,000, and like half of them's empty.
There's 27,000, right? I mean, that's a lot of hot dogs and peanuts and Cracker Jack, and obviously Budweiser, which is your probably highest grossing concession. So of course, but I'm just saying, if they're willing to spend $500 million over the next 10 years, boy, that buys a lot of players.
And Dustin, let me ask you a question here too. That was, you said $100 million from Anaheim. Okay. And not to belittle Anaheim or anything, but that's not the Chicago Cubs. Right. And so how many Cub fans that maybe say, you know what, I don't think Marquee's really worth it. I had a bunch of friends of mine that just got the Marquee for the first time ever as the direct to streaming app came out this season. Okay. So this is the first time they were back. Why? Because the Cubs were competitive and they were a fun team to watch. How many additional people will buy that app? Or if Shohei Ohtani's much watched TV. I mean, it is must watch baseball. That moment when he was pitching against Mike Trout was just electric in the World Baseball Classic. There's nothing that compares to him. And I would not have him pitch ever again personally if I give him $500 million, just because I just can't have an injury where that guy gets hurt like that. To me, he's an all-time DH. Maybe occasionally an outfielder. Even then, I'd be nervous. I just want this guy to literally put the ball down Kenmore. That's all I need him to do 45 times a year. That's what I need. So
my point is, Crawly, if you can find a guy that can do that 32 times a year, and then you buy a nice number 2 pitcher.
Look at, and we're going to go over trades next episode. Do you think that there is a player in baseball that a pitcher fears more facing than Ohtani?
Oh, probably not. No. And then, that's going to benefit. Obviously, that's going to benefit the batter. There's going to be protection for somebody like who? Like Swanson, perhaps, right? Like Ian Happ, perhaps, who's ever batting in front of him. So, yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of benefits. Listen, we know the Cubs are in on him. We'll have to wait and see.
All right. So let's say
Ohtani or bust doesn't do it for me. I mean, if you do Ohtani, you got to keep going. If you're going all in, you got to go all in, man. Not like I'm kind of going in. All in means all in. All in means doesn't have to be Mets, but it's got to be Phillies all in. Okay. The Phillies have 6 guys making over $20 million a year now. 6.
That's a lot. And so, if you do not land Ohtani, maybe you land JD Martinez. He had a great season with the Dodgers last year. He slashed 271, 321, 572 with 33 home runs and 103 RBIs. Another great clubhouse guy. You got 36 years old, Dustin, but it's a DH. You know what I mean? How taxing is that? And
too old for me right now.
He is older.
Again, like Bellinger, JD Martinez, okay, but not JD Martinez, obviously, in Ohtani.
Now, I will tell you the thing that worries me too is that he didn't have to be the premier offensive threat on the Dodgers team. Not when you have Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, and Will Smith.
That changes things a lot as well.
So Bowden has his contract at 1 year, $12 million. So I'm just throwing it out there.
A lot of these pillow contracts, it seems like.
Right. Well, with him, it's not as much because he's not going to get another big contract. For him, it's just another year in the majors. Those pillow contracts is you get a guy that, just struggled and he's going to do a prove it. Yeah.
If it works out, he's got a big contract coming.
Right. JD Martinez is riding off in the sunset, but 1 year, $12 million is not bad. I mean, we talked about, that's not these days, that's not much.
Right.
So, for a guy that hit 33 home runs and 103 RBIs. If he's going to do that again for the Cubs, you're going to need Seiya and Ian and Nico all to take a step forward from what they did last season. I actually talked to this guy last weekend and invited him back to Wrigley Field. How about Jorge Soler, a blast from the past? You remember Georgie from his time with the Cubs from 2014 to 2016. Hip, hip, Jorge. Soler is now a free agent after opting out the final year of his contract with the Marlins. He slashed .250, .341, .512, Dustin, with 36 home runs, 75 RBIs, and 24 doubles. Not only that, he can play some right field as well. Bowden has his contract at 2 years, $32 million. Dustin, is a reunion with Soler in the cards?
Well, it could be. I mean, we just talked about it. I don't want to be a hypocrite. Soler's a guy who I think could hit 30 home runs at Wrigley Field. So do you want the Japanese pitcher and Soler and Turner? What do you think of that? Right? I'm just saying. So these are the armchair GMing that we could do. I don't hate it. He's young and he can hit the ball a mile, and he's way cheaper than Ohtani.
Right.
Especially to your point, especially if we're saying you're never pitching him again.
Well, with the hot stove heating up, Dustin, maybe we'll get these answers sooner rather than later. Just make sure you keep tuning in to the Fly the W podcast.
You are listening to the Fly the W670 podcast, season 2, episode 90, Cubs free agent hitting options in 2024. We just went through a big, long list, and don't forget to listen, download, review, and subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. Crawly, we've got some news and notes to share with the listener.
Yes, the Cubs signed a pitcher from Japan. No, not Ohtani or Yamamoto, but former Red Sox top prospect Edwin Escobar, cousin of Alcides Escobar. He is 32-year-old lefty reliever who has been pitching in Japan. Dustin, with Brandon Hughes being non-tendered, we talked about that last time, the Cubs clearly need more lefty bullpen pieces. We don't know contract terms just yet, but he's a guy that has some funk, kind of a lower arm slot on his delivery. He was also a longtime teammate of lefty starting pitcher Shota Imanaga, who the Cubs have been tied to. So just something to keep in mind. But with the signing of Escobar, the 40-man roster now stands at 38.
All right, 38 and counting, 2 more to go. We've also got a new assistant GM.
Right. And just remember with that 40-man roster, you could always trade somebody off the roster as well, right? You can trade, say, a Patrick Wisdom for a couple minor leaguers, and then that would bring your 40-man down. So still in flux, but promotion announced for Jared Banner, friend of the pod. He's been on before, to assistant general manager, taking the place of the departed Craig Breslow. Banner was a vice president of player development that saw the Cubs farm system move into the top 5 rankings in most publications. He's done a great job with that. Congrats to Jared. And like I said, opportunities within the Cubs, opportunity for promotions, and Jared is one that gets them. And now we need someone to take over for the director, vice president of player development. And as you know, we talked about in the last episode with Kyle Glazer on it, that the Cubs turned around that farm system in a real short amount of time. And there's been a lot of good things happening with the scouting, the development of the player talent. Just want to keep that going. You don't want to have to trade a bunch of guys off to do this again. Want to keep it steady like the Dodgers,
Yep. Keep the good people around. No doubt about that.
Now, the Cubs coaching carousel continues. Bench coach Andy Green has taken a job with the New York Mets front office in a senior role for player development. According to Jeff Pisani, he was offered other jobs in the Cubs organization after David Ross was let go. We knew he was interviewing for managerial jobs as well. He was mentioned in the Guardians job hunt, but it was kind of weird. He was not fired or let go. From the Cubs, Joel Sherman wrote an article about Cody Bellinger. I talked about it in segment 1. And in that article, he was like, yeah, the Cubs dismissed David Ross and Andy Green. Everyone's like, well, that was never announced.
Did he say dismissed? I thought he said that David Green was no longer with the Cubs. There's a difference, as you're trying to point out. It's a fine line, but there is a difference.
I thought the word was dismissed. I can double check it, but I know for a fact he made it seem as he was let go, which he was not at that point in time.
Right.
Also gone is assistant hitting coach Johnny Washington. He was hired by the Angels, reportedly interviewed for their managerial opening after the 2019 season that eventually went to Joe Madden. The assistant hitting coach position is now open, and we talked about John Maley earlier. That seems like a perfect place to put John Maley, assistant hitting coach, helping out Dustin Kelly, helping out any young Cubs from Iowa that he worked with last year coming into the majors, like a PCA, like a Matt Mervis, like an Alexander Canario. So we'll see what happens. I don't think any decisions have been made just yet, but I think John Maley easily fits into that position. Now, also announced by MLB was the Hall of Fame ballot. There's not much here as far as Cub fans are really interested in. A couple first-year guys that are on the ballot: Jose Bautista, Adrian Beltre, Bartolo Colon, Adrian Gonzalez,
Bartolo Colon,
Joe Mauer, Matt Holliday, James Shields, Chase Utley, David Wright, but nothing, like I said, very Cubbish.
So anybody who played baseball gets to be on the list, or what?
Sir, you have to meet a certain criteria,
James
so not
Shields?
everybody, but
James Shields,
big game James. He's not going to make it. He'll be off. He's just going to be. I assume he'll be a one and done guy.
Check James. I don't know, big game James. Anyway,
remember he didn't want to come to the Cubs because he wanted to go to a winner, and then the next thing you know, the Cubs went and won a World Series.
Yep.
So thanks for your services, James. It never happened, but. Dustin, you were talking earlier about, the seats are going to be filled. And here's the thing that I can tell you as a season ticket holder to kind of be watching. And that was that when I first got my own season tickets, I split with my future father-in-law from like 2000 to 2022 till 2003. And then after they almost made the World Series in 2003, in 2004, I woke up at like 4 a.m. in a February day, lined up at Wrigley, and whoever was the sixth person behind me was number one on the season ticket holder waiting list. And what ends up happening at that point is that list continued to swell and swell and swell. And if you were one of those people who would check to see where you were on that season ticket holder list, well, you don't have to wait anymore. Dustin, I think after the Cubs won the World Series, this idea of having to be there and the Cubs being a hot ticket. And I know people that I never did this. I always just wanted to go to the games I wanted to go to, and I'd sell the ones I didn't want to go to at face value. I never tried to make this into a money thing.
Into a business, yeah.
No, I had no interest. I just wanted to let Cub fans go to games in good seats, and that's that. But I know people that did, and they did make their good share. But I really feel like after the World Series, and then even more after the pandemic, they're just not as hot a commodity as they once were. They're expensive, Dustin, and they're expensive, and it's hard to get down there, and they're expensive. Yep. Right. And I can tell you that the Cubs burned through that list and were making cold calls and repeated calls to people that turned it down when their opportunity came up. So, I think it just makes sense that that list is now gone. And so you too can now become a Cubs season ticket holder. They are offering a variety of packages. I did not see my package on there. They have the full season, 81 games that you can do. They now have half seasons, which are 41 games, and a 20-game package. Now, if you have the 20-game package, what you do have is you have access to 20 games, access to Cubs and Wrigley Field event pre-sales. Those would be things like concerts and CubsCon and stuff like that. And you have postseason ticket access. My guess, Dustin, it will not be in the specific seats that people have. They'll be able to buy before the general public for postseason. Yeah. Or they will be given
that sounds like a pretty attractive offer.
Right. Or they would
22, buy a pair of tickets, especially when you get access to all the concerts, because you can make a lot of money on those concert tickets.
Right. And I don't know exactly how many postseason tickets you get, et cetera. I don't have that information. Right. But something to keep in mind. Half season tickets, if you have 41, you have the ticket exchange program, which is if you have a ticket and you want to swap it for a different game, you can do that. You have to pay the difference if it occurs. But that's an option that the Cubs give you. 15% discount on concessions and retail, access to the pre-sales and postseason ticket access. And then, of course, the full season, they give you the lowest price per ticket. It's lower than if you buy it through the box office. All seating locations are eligible, so you can pick, whatever seats are open, which you don't have that option with the 41 game or the 20 game package. And then all the rest, the ticket exchange, the 15% off.
The one year I finally got season tickets, Crawly, they ended up losing 103 games that year. 103. you couldn't give the tickets. People wouldn't take them for free and use them. I mean, we barely went. One time I bought tickets somewhere else, sold the 2 tickets that I had, and it didn't even cover 4 beers.
Yeah. And my package is not included in that one. My package ends up coming to be like 65 games. 60 it's opening days, holidays, nights, and weekends. So basically I just don't get like the Wednesday 120, Friday 120 games.
Oh boy. Yeah, well, the Friday 120s are good. Not for you.
Yeah, not for me, but for a lot. Oh, I can go a lot in the summer too, but to me that's always been a good package. And for me with the postseason, I get the wild card games, I get all of the NLDS, I get one less of the NLCS and one less of the World Series.
Yeah.
So in 2016,
that is interesting though. I didn't realize that they were they burned through that list, because I mean, yeah, that was I was on that list for 20 years, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So that list is burned through, and like I said, I think after the World Series and pandemic, that really changed a lot of things. So, if you're a Cub fan like me that likes all the other ancillary things, like whether you're talking about like first dibs for the Winter Wonderland or for concerts or for Cubs convention, then it's a good deal, especially the 20-game package. But I would say that, I think if they get Ohtani, those ticket prices are going to go back up.
Yeah, they will go back up. There is no doubt about that. You are listening to the Fly the W670 podcast. It's episode 90 of season 2. We've been talking about Cubs free agent hitting options in 2024. Don't forget to listen, download, review, and subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. And if you're a diehard like Crawly, I don't know if anybody is as diehard as Crawly, but you're probably going through your Cubs and baseball withdrawals, except they've been in the news quite a bit. The new segment we've got going, we're going to help you fill out that social calendar with Cubs events. On this episode, we are talking with Stewart McVicar, Club 400 fame, as he will announce who the guest will be for this year's Christmas party. Get your Cubs ugly sweater ready. Do that today.
Joining me on the Fly the W, guys, you get 2 for 1 today. We have the guys from the Club 400 podcast. Stu McVicar makes his return, and the first timer here, Sir William Geheren. Sir William, how are you, buddy?
I'm a virgin to the show. I'm so excited.
Yeah, and Stu's an old hat at this here, but what we're talking about here is a lot of people, they get lonely this time of year. They miss baseball. They miss the Cubs. They miss Wrigley Field. And what I've been doing lately is just telling people, man, there's things always going on, good events going on. And everybody knows that, that listens to the podcast or follows my Twitter, whatever, that I'm a Club 400 junkie. And we are now approaching the holidays, which means one thing, one of the most fun events of the year, the Club 400 Christmas party. Stu, why don't you tell our listeners what makes the Christmas party different in your mind than other Club 400 parties?
I mean, I think it's the best part of the year, honestly. And I think just because, as you know, Crawly, we have a family that gets together once a year, and it's usually smaller. And I always try to pick a very special guest. Last year, oh, man, I just get so excited seeing those guys. I miss those guys, Cole Franklin and Brendan Davis. They were amazing last year, right? I mean, those guys were the best, dude. And
when he says family, it's like family like you want to be around. Some people go to family. It's not quite that way. That's
not the drunk, inappropriate uncle. I don't know.
Drunkle.
And another thing we always try to do, which makes the Club 400 party Christmas party so special, is we try to help somebody out, and we've helped out a lot of great people. I remember we got Danny Rocket a brand new guitar, which we all love Danny Rocket, and we've got a wheelchair for your friend William.
Yeah, little girl got a wheelchair for her.
But we always do a Club 400 Christmas surprise, and we've always tried to do something good for somebody. And this year, I think we're outdoing ourselves. We have a goal this year for our Club 400 Christmas party, which is Saturday, December 9th, 6 to 10 o'clock. And that is simply one thing. That is to raise $10,000. $10,000 we want to raise for a person who does not even, they're going to be at the party and they're going to be awarded $10,000. We're going to help them out because that's what we do, Crawly. You know what we are. We're Cub fans helping Cub fans.
Yeah, and it's I was the recipient one time of a gift at the Christmas party. Here's a picture, Sir William and Stu, for those of the people that are watching this on the Fly the W podcast playlist from 670 The Score YouTube channel. This was when you guys surprised me and got me the Miggy Montero game-used jersey from the ring ceremony that I was a part of. I mean, I was literally in tears And luckily, people didn't have to see me cry because Sammy Sosa came on the phone to talk to you in the middle of the party. And that's the thing about the Christmas party is like fun things just kind of always happen out of the blue. It's like you said, it's just more of a relaxed.
Talking to me, by the way, Crawly.
It's more of a relaxed vibe, And
no, like I said, it's unbelievable. The Christmas party means a lot. And Crawly,
we need to have a Christmas party greatest hits. Video or something.
We always do Christmas carols, which is always a blast. And we've had like Mickey Montero was one of our guests. There's Danny and you, Crawly, and
that giving you that jersey. That's in my top 10.
And I'll tell you what, Tom Warman.
I
don't know if you know Tom Warman. Anybody in Chicago who doesn't know Tom Warman. Tom Warman is the #1 Cub collector of Cubs game used memorabilia in Chicago. And he called me. He goes, Stu, you want to buy this jersey? I go, you can't sell that jersey. There's no way you can sell that jersey. Crawly has to have that jersey.
It's got to be Crawly's house.
Crawly did it right. He framed it up beautiful, and it's sitting in Crawly's clubhouse right now.
Oh, yeah. Jason Ketchik from Catch 22 did a phenomenal job, and it's one there. But like you said, one of the fun things, Danny Rocket, super talented guy, he will come up with a whole bunch of Christmas carols and change the lyrics to Cubs theme. We print them out. Everybody gets a copy. And the photo up here is myself singing with Kathleen Messmer, who is a ringer. She sings a little bit better than me, just a little. But she absolutely was belting out. That was the song Correa or to Gloria. And that was a huge, huge hit with everybody. A lot of fun. And so, this year, Danny's already cooking in the lab, getting ready to go.
Good friend Wayne Mesmer, he's the best.
Yeah, Wayne's been at the Christmas parties. Miggy's been at the Christmas parties. This one, if you remember this greatest hits, this is Ray Burris is in this one. We're all kind of taking a picture with Jim and Justin in the background. This one cracks me up because I think this was taken at like 1 a.m. and Patrick Wisdom was still there.
Yeah. That's a good thing that you have those pictures so we can take attendance on who lasted and
who was up at 1 a.m.
Yeah. It's but you know what? That, like I said, it's the fun thing about it. And so this year you said, nobody knows what the charity is other than a very few select people, the two gentlemen in front of me.
Is that not amazing? Stu has actually held on to something so far.
I'm going to say it's almost as impressive as Jed Hoyer being quiet about Craig Counsell. The fact that Stu's keeping a secret. So far, so good. And the funny thing, Stu, is that, you originally, when we talked about this, it's just, we're not going to do a player this year. That's not going to happen. But, all of a sudden, just like I said, a Christmas Cub miracle, there is going to be a guest here. And how cool this, of this guest, I'm going to let you reveal it, but how cool that he's doing this for Club 400 and to help out, just kind of goes to tell you what kind of guy this is.
Wait, before he reveals it, does he have to be careful about the nickname he might choose?
Yeah, be careful. Apparently we're going to avoid certain nicknames, but go ahead, Stu. Why don't you tell the listeners?
I'm excited about it. You know what, Crawly, as you know, I don't know if you talked about it on the show yet, but our great friend from Club 400, John Maylee, has been retained by Craig Counsell, and he will be a part of the Chicago Cubs in 2024. And, he talked to me, and I told him exactly what I was doing. He goes, hey, man, I want to come to your Christmas party, and I'm bringing a guest. And so we're at Club 400 is proud to announce that we're going to be selling only 80 tickets for $100. You come out here, and all the money is going to Christmas Club 400 Christmas surprise. And you get to hang out, get autographs, take pictures, do a Q&A with our good friend Mike Talkman, man. Straight from Palatine to Lake in the Hills. I'm really proud to have him out here. And I think it's going to be a great night. And the most important thing I want your listeners to know, Crawly, is that you're going to spend $100, and all $100 is going to charity. Club 400 gets nothing. We're getting the food donated. We're getting the alcohol donated. So $100, you come out, you have a good time, and you get to see someone get basically $10,000 who's in need of it. This is called the Club 400 Christmas Surprise. Thank you, John Maylee. And to bring Mike Talkman out to Club 400 for this means the world to me.
So Mike Talkman had just an unbelievable season this year. He was really a vital part of the Cubs going from 10 games under to 12 games over. It was, and it was just a great story. Local guy make good. And so this Christmas party is going to be Saturday, December 9th. You don't think about it tomorrow. We have Thanksgiving tomorrow, but that's right around the corner. We're talking about a couple of weeks from now. So 6 to 10 p.m. It's $100 for a ticket. There's going to be 2 guests. You're going to have Mike Talkman and John Maley. So feel free to bring a ball. If you got a photo, if you got some sort of World Series memorabilia for John Maley to sign, absolutely do that. And I'm
making promises for him. He'll probably wear his ring and he'll let you try it on and take pictures.
Probably.
Most likely.
Yeah. And here's the thing
maybe I just want to tell all your listeners right now, we only have about 42 tickets left. So.
Yeah, he said 80
earlier. There's already 40 sold today, basically, and we just put it up this morning. So, but we do want to sell it out, and the main thing is we do want to raise that $10,000.
Right, and so when you think about the $100, you're like, oh man, but here's the thing: you get food, you get fed, and some of the food is rings and burgers and pizza, and then you get the beer. The beer is flowing nonstop all night. There's a question and answer. Bring whatever you want to get autographed. I will tell people it's the best value in the memorabilia game. Because you're going to have fun. You're going to meet new like-minded Cub fans. You get to talk to players. A lot of times when you go to these signings, there's a table in between you and the player. And, sometimes I've been to autograph signings where they don't even look up at you. Like they're just like, yep, okay, yep, next. Okay. They don't even pay attention that you're even there. This is completely different. And so if you've been waiting and you've kind of always been kicking around, well, maybe I should go to the Club 400 party. And already I've been talking to so many people. Sarah Sanchez from Bleed Cubby Blue, the notorious LEX, Lexi's going to be there. Brendan King, who was the MC from last year's Cole Franklin and Brendan Davis event. I mean, it's people are already lining up because here's the thing. People who've been there know that this is a fun one to go to. It's not too crowded and everybody's so friendly. Ugly Cub sweater, not mandatory, but I always like to kind of wear something.
Carl, I like to follow up on that. Besides almost going to be raising $850,000, I think by the end of the year, it'll be about $850,000. One of the proudest things I am is exactly what you said. I give the Cub fans an experience that they're never going to get anywhere. I don't think there's anybody in the world doing what I'm doing right now, inviting over players, Hall of Famers, past great current players, and putting them in the light where, like I said, you get to know the person behind the uniform because they're here hanging out with you, having a good time, and you're raising money for a great cause, and you'll always have that in common. And any Cub player that's been out here knows that they have Club 400 support going forward, and it's like you said, it's a big family, and that's one of the proudest things is that we created an unbelievable family of Cub fans.
Well, guys, I think that, our listeners will be excited and hopefully we can get everybody over there, but do not be one of those people that waits. Cause how many times, Stu, have you had to deal with people that are like, oh, do you have any more tickets left? I was going to buy them and now they're out. This is purposely kept smaller cause it's a more intimate gathering. Again, more of a family style gathering. And so, just don't wait on this because you're going to regret it. And I talk to people all the time. I finally convince them, I twist their arm. They finally show up to Club 400. They're like, well, why didn't I go all the other times? And I'm like, well, that was your fault. I've invited you how many times? Once people come, they always come back.
Yeah, they always do. And we love virgins here at Club 400. We like having people that have never been here because I would like all the Cub fans to experience what a Club 400 party is about and what the atmosphere is like. And we want to welcome you to our family.
Absolutely. So guys, do me a favor. Tell us where people can listen to your podcast, where they can go to get the tickets, and where to follow you on the social medias.
Crawly, it's actually where can they not hear our podcast, I think. And before I answer your question specifically, I would just like to make a statement because I can barely get a word in when I'm on with Stu. First of all, I would like to say it's an absolute honor to be on your show. It truly is. You also know I always give you a lot of abuse that you're the number 2 rated Cubs podcast. And actually, if you look at the numbers, it would bear that out. But, but no, I'm just kidding. You're you sell yourself short. You were talking about all the things that are happening that night. You should come here and want to pay $100 to meet and hang out with Crawly.
I agree.
I mean, this guy is an international superstar. We're lucky to be friends, right? We've had some Iowa Cubs experiences, from the minors to the majors, man, we've seen it all. And it's awesome.
We've seen a million faces and we rocked them all, I won
a Bo from Wilmington Cubs cards the other day or maybe Dave Arnold said it, who did our Club 400 music trivia. But he goes, we don't need a player. We have so many like Cubs celebrities there. And like I did see Sarah Sanchez bought a ticket. Crawly, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Has she ever been here before?
She is not. She's going to be a first timer.
Oh, I love it.
So anyway, you can find our podcast information on all this. First of all, to buy tickets. To buy tickets to anything that we do, you go to www.club400cubs.com.
Yep. Go to the events page. He's not doing bad the first time on the podcast.
It's my first time.
Not bad. So, yeah, that's where you can go to buy all our tickets, www.club400cubs.com. On the events page. It's usually on the front page, whatever we got going on. And you can buy tickets and process them through there. And, you know, you'll get an email back and you'll get all the information. And it'll be an awesome time. If you want to follow us on Facebook, Club 400 public page is the B. And on Twitter, it's Cubs Fan Cave, I believe, or Club 400 Cave, I believe. Yeah,
right. And
Cave.
Also, we have a Club 400 podcast page as well.
Yes, we do.
And that gives you a link to every show that we do and all of that. Very easy to find.
Yep.
Just type in Club 400.
Instagram, Club 400.
Anywhere you listen to podcasts.
We're really heavily based on Facebook, but I'm not the best social media guy out there, but I'm trying to get better as I go. But, you know, I don't mind keeping it kind of small and family-like. Club
and what's Stu's famous comment, Crawly?
I love you more than you love me.
That's one of them. No, I can't say that. No, he talks about, you know, individually, we're all just, you know, a bunch of passionate Cub fans, but together, I'm probably paraphrasing this, not exactly how you say it, but together, we all come together. We can do some pretty cool, powerful stuff. Yeah. So,
and again,
you, buddy.
I've said this many a times. You know, I came to Club 400 looking to get autographs, and now all I care about is the friends that I've made at Club 400 and the difference we've all made. And that I think a lot of people kind of when they see the first time that somebody's getting something that really, especially people in need, that you sit there and you say like, this is bigger than just baseball.
Yeah.
Crawly, and I want to say one more thing, and
because he's got to get the last word in, no matter what.
I also expect December 9th to be We Got Ohtani party, okay?
I love it.
Can you make that happen?
I'm gonna make a couple calls. We'll see what we can do, and maybe one day Ohtani will be a Club 400 guest. No promises, but that would definitely be some fun. Our guy
Johnny Benedict will probably have to learn some new songs.
And hey, man, Johnny Benedict will be playing the organ at the party.
Oh, wait, is he another famous cut? Yes, he is.
He's pretty famous.
Wow.
The organist of Wrigley Field will be playing the tunes at the party. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for jumping on. I appreciate it. And I hope we see so many listeners out there at the Club 400 party. It's going to be a blast. Thank you guys for jumping on.
Yeah, and anytime you want us back, I'm only at 1, so I got to get up to 5.
We'll get you up. We'll get your numbers up, William.
See you, Crawly. Love you, buddy.
That's a wrap. Don't forget to listen, download, review, and subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. Follow us on the socials, Fly the W on Facebook, Fly the W670 Instagram. We're on Twitter. You can email Crawly and I, flythew670@gmail.com. And you can watch us on YouTube by subscribing to the 670 The Score YouTube channel.
You know, Dustin, I want to thank, this is going to be released on Thanksgiving, I want to thank everybody for tuning in and listening to the Fly the W, for leaving those 5-star reviews. Dustin, this is our 150th episode together.
Wow, 150th. Holy cow.
You know, it's been a lot of fun, and it doesn't happen without the listeners. So thank you and have a great Thanksgiving. And go Cubs! Hey, guys, it's Crawly. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date with our latest episodes. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Go Cubs!